Rick Ross has always had a larger-than-life persona.
I wouldn't be the boss rosé if I didn't begin my day with a glass of rosé
And peculiar, extravagant habits. But when the chickens came home to roost, the hip-hop star had a major turnaround.
Why accumulate everything you can imagine just to drop dead and have a stroke?
And it wasn't just his weight loss journey. This is the story of what happened to Ricky Rose. The wake-up call. The rapper we know as Rick Ross, born William Leonard Roberts II, wasn't always the health-conscious entrepreneur we see today. In fact, there was a time when his lifestyle choices were quite literally killing him, and he didn't even realize it until it was almost too late. Let me take you back to October 14th, 2011, a day that would forever change Rick Ross's life. Picture this. Ross is on a private jet, flying from Fort Lauderdale to Memphis, probably thinking about his next big move, his next album, his growing empire. He's at the absolute peak of his career, having just released the critically acclaimed album Teflon Don the year before. Everything seems to be going according to plan, but then, without warning, everything goes dark.
Staying up, chasing my dreams. I always thought I had the best excuses, but don't nothing come before life.
Ross suffered his first seizure mid-flight, becoming unconscious as the plane soared through the sky. The pilot had no choice but to make an emergency landing back in Fort Lauderdale. CPR was administered. The situation was critical. But here's where it gets even more shocking. After being treated at the hospital and released, Ross made a decision that would demonstrate just how little he understood about what was happening to his body. He got right back on another plane, determined to make it to Memphis for his scheduled appearance. And then it happened again. A second seizure struck while he was in the air, forcing yet another emergency landing, this time in Birmingham, Alabama. 2 seizures in a single day, 2 brushes with death, 2 wake-up calls that Rick Ross wasn't quite ready to answer yet. When doctors examined him at the hospital in Birmingham, they ran extensive tests. The initial diagnosis seemed simple enough on the surface: severe sleep deprivation. Ross himself admitted something that should shock anyone who values their health. He had been sleeping only about 3 hours a night for extended periods. But there was something else the doctors discovered, something they warned him about with deadly seriousness. At the time, Ross weighed approximately 350 pounds, and his physician told him point blank his weight posed life-threatening risks that required immediate changes to prevent further complications. Now, you might think that having 2 seizures in one day, being rushed to the hospital twice, and hearing doctors tell you that your lifestyle could kill you would be enough to make anyone change immediately. But Ross, like so many people who are caught up in the grind, in the hustle, in the pursuit of success, didn't fully grasp the severity of his situation. Not yet. In his 2019 memoir, Hurricanes, Ross would later reveal the full truth about what was really causing his health crises.
So when I had a seizure, I said, you know where that come from? Me not resting, me not sleeping, me sipping lean in the studio to 7 a.m.
It wasn't just sleep deprivation, though. That was certainly a major factor. The real culprit was his heavy abuse of codeine-based lean, that dangerous mixture of codeine cough syrup, soda, and candy that has claimed too many lives in the hip-hop community. Ross admitted to consuming up to a full bottle of lean nightly at times, combined with alcohol and other substances. This toxic cocktail, mixed with his grueling schedule, poor diet, and massive weight, was a recipe for disaster. But let me tell you something that makes Ross's story even more complex and ultimately more human. In interviews following the 2011 incidents, Ross initially downplayed the severity of what happened. He even referenced the seizures in his music, rapping on the remix of Meek Mill's Ema Boss. Had a couple seizures, call it minor setbacks, everybody praying for me, I respect that. Woke up in the hospital, where my check's at, then I put 8 chains where my neck's at. This wasn't just bravado. This was a man who genuinely believed he could power through anything, that his will and determination could overcome any physical limitation. The 2011 seizures did motivate Ross to start making some changes. He began what he would call RossFit, a CrossFit-inspired workout routine that had him exercising 4 days a week. He started working with a personal chef to create healthier versions of his favorite meals. He famously incorporated pears into his diet, crediting them for helping curb his cravings. He didn't cut out all his favorite foods. He still enjoyed his Wingstop wings and Checkers burgers, but he limited them to specific windows, like noon to 5 p.m., only 2 or 3 days a week.
I did have a major weight loss transformation, and I think what truly inspired that was me suffering my first seizure. And after I did that, I began to spend more time looking at myself, taking care of myself, investing in myself, and I realized I had to change my diet, my sleeping habits, here we are.
By 2014, Ross had lost approximately 100 pounds, dropping from his peak weight of around 350 pounds to a much healthier 250. He appeared on shows like The Dr. Oz Show to discuss his transformation, seemingly on top of the world again. Visual evidence from this period shows a dramatic transformation. Ross looked healthier, happier, and more energetic than he had in years. But here's the thing about addiction and lifestyle changes that a lot of people don't understand. Real, lasting transformation isn't linear. It's not a straight line from unhealthy to healthy. There are setbacks, relapses, moments of weakness, and for Rick Ross, despite all the progress he had made, despite losing 100 pounds and seemingly getting his life back on track, the worst was yet to come. In 2017, Ross experienced another seizure, this time kept private from the public. It happened on a flight returning from Europe following a period of intense touring and a legal plea deal that had compromised his sleep and immune system. Doctors suspected he might have contracted a virus during a performance in Kenya and considered quarantine. Ross was hospitalized for a week, underwent treatments including lung flushing and antibiotics. But this incident remained out of the public eye until he revealed it in his memoir. The pattern was becoming clear, but Ross still hadn't fully addressed the root cause of his problems. He was still using codeine. He was still not getting adequate rest. He was still pushing his body to its absolute limits. And in March 2018, all of those chickens would come home to roost in the most terrifying way imaginable. On March 2nd, 2018, Rick Ross was found unresponsive at his Miami home. The scene was horrifying. He was slobbing at the mouth, had defecated on himself, and was struggling to breathe. He was rushed to the hospital where initial reports, including one from TMZ, suggested he might have suffered a heart attack and was placed on ECMO, extracorporeal membrane oxygenation, a form of life support that assists heart and lung function. The hip-hop world held its breath. Social media exploded with prayers and well wishes. Death rumors began to circulate, with some people actually believing that Rick Ross had died. His family and associates had to actively push back against these rumors, with people like rapper Fat Trell tweeting that Ross was good and not on life support as some were claiming. Ross remained hospitalized for 4 days, receiving intensive care treatment. When he was finally released on March 5th, he shared his first post-hospital photo on social media with the simple message, "Ain't nothing like home." But behind that image of a man recovering, behind that brave face, was a terrifying truth that Ross would only fully reveal later. This wasn't just another seizure. This was Ross coming face to face with his own mortality in the most visceral way possible. And this time, finally, after years of warnings, after multiple hospitalizations, after losing and regaining weight, after promising to change and falling back into old habits, this time, Rick Ross was ready to truly transform his life. But the story doesn't end there, not by a long shot, because what Rick Ross would do next, how he would turn this near-death experience into a catalyst for not just personal transformation, but for helping millions of others, that's where this story gets truly inspiring. The transformation. Ross experienced his most serious health scare in March 2018 and was hospitalized for 4 days after being found unresponsive at his Miami home. Here is a picture of what Rick Ross's life looked like before he got this rude wake-up call. This was a man who admitted to eating 24-ounce steaks at 4 a.m., sleeping only 2 to 3 hours a night, consuming heavy amounts of codeine-laced lean, and pushing his body to absolute extremes day after day, week after week, year after year. His memoir, Hurricanes, reveals details that are almost difficult to believe. The sheer volume of substance abuse, the complete disregard for rest and recovery, the prioritization of work and success over basic health needs. But here's what makes Ross's transformation so remarkable. In his 2019 memoir, he finally revealed the full truth about what caused his 2018 hospitalization. It wasn't just a heart attack, as initial reports suggested. The real cause was his prolonged abuse of codeine, combined with other substances, stress, and insufficient rest. He admitted to ignoring prescribed seizure medication, believing he could overcome his condition through sheer willpower. The 2018 incident involved a seizure so severe that he aspirated, meaning he inhaled fluids into his lungs, leading to aspiration pneumonia. He was foaming at the mouth, coughing up blood, and experienced what the medical report described as respiratory failure. Shortly after his release from the hospital, and just weeks after nearly losing his life, Ross did something that many people found shocking. He performed again. In late late April 2018, he reportedly suffered another seizure backstage at B.B. King's Blues Club in New York before a concert. A masseuse treated him for an hour to help his body relax, and then, incredibly, he went on stage and performed anyway. To some, this might have seemed like the same old Rick Ross, refusing to let anything stop him, but something fundamental had changed inside him. This time, Ross made a decision that would alter the trajectory of his life. He quit codeine completely. No more lean, no more of the substance that had been slowly killing him for years. He enhanced his diet dramatically, adding more vegetables, cutting out late-night sodas, and heavy foods. Most importantly, he finally prioritized rest and sleep, understanding that his body needed time to recover and heal. The weight loss that followed was substantial and sustained. By 2023, Ross had lost between 75 and 100 pounds from his peak weight, and more importantly, he had kept it off. In interviews, he denied using weight loss drugs like Ozempic, stating that he is not diabetic and crediting his transformation entirely to dietary changes and consistent exercise. His RossFit program evolved from just a workout routine to a complete lifestyle philosophy, but Ross didn't stop at just transforming his own life. In 2020, he launched JetDoc, a telehealth app that provides affordable, accessible healthcare to underserved communities. Ross invested his own money and his reputation into creating something that could help people avoid the same health crises he had experienced. The concept behind JetDoc is brilliantly simple, yet potentially life-changing. Within 3 minutes, users can connect with a doctor virtually through their phone. They describe their symptoms or situation, receive medical advice, and can even get prescriptions filled at nearby pharmacies. For communities where accessing traditional healthcare is difficult, whether due to cost, transportation issues, or simply the inconvenience of taking time off work, this kind of service could be revolutionary. In 2023, Ross continued his health advocacy by donating $30,000 to help keep a clinic open in Fayette County, Georgia. He also joined fellow rappers in a public service announcement demanding more transparent and affordable healthcare. By 2024, Ross had expanded his health-focused ventures by introducing CTRL meal kits, promoting nutritious eating with the slogan, "Health is Wealth." Now let's talk about something that might seem contradictory at first. Ross's continued embrace of luxury and indulgence, even as he promotes health and wellness. In his own kitchen tour video, Ross shows all off 3 refrigerators, talks about starting his day with rosé wine, and admits that he still enjoys his favorite foods like Wingstop's lemon pepper wings. Some critics might see this as hypocrisy, but I think it represents something much more realistic and sustainable. This is the key to Ross's transformation. He hasn't become a health zealot who denies himself all pleasure. Instead, he's learned balance and moderation. He exercises regularly, eats well most of the time, prioritizes sleep and rest, and then allows himself to enjoy life's pleasures in controlled, measured ways. This approach makes Ross's health advocacy more relatable and potentially more effective than if he had completely transformed into some kind of fitness guru who never touches anything unhealthy. He's showing people that you can make significant life-saving changes to your health without giving up everything that brings you joy. It's about finding that balance, about being disciplined when it matters and allowing yourself grace when you've earned it. The physical transformation is visible and impressive. Ross maintains his weight loss years after his initial transformation, with estimates suggesting he has kept off at least 75 to 100 pounds from his peak weight. More importantly, he reports feeling healthier and more energetic than he has in over a decade. No major health scares have been reported since 2018, suggesting that his lifestyle changes have been genuinely effective. But Ross's health journey hasn't been without its critics and controversies. Some people have questioned whether he's truly as healthy as he claims, pointing to his continued partying lifestyle and public persona. In a 2023 interview with Rolling Stone, Ross admitted that while he had made major changes, he still embraces a "party till I die" mindset, albeit in a more controlled and health-conscious way. What makes Ross's story particularly powerful is his willingness to be vulnerable and honest about his struggles. In interviews and his memoir, he shared details about his health crises that many celebrities would prefer to keep private, including the humiliating and frightening moment of being found unconscious, having defecated on himself, foaming at the mouth. By sharing these details, he's helping to destigmatize health problems and encouraging others to seek help before it's too late. The impact of Ross's Ross's advocacy work is difficult to quantify, but potentially enormous. Through JetDoc, CTRL meal kits, public service announcements, and his own example, he's reaching millions of people with messages about health awareness and accessibility while still battling controversies, empire building, and recent controversies. Rick Ross has always been about more than just music. Yes, he's a Grammy-nominated rapper with multiple platinum albums. Yes, he founded Maybach Music Group and helped launch the careers of artists like Meek Mill and Whale. But what really sets Ross apart is his business acumen, his ability to turn his brand into a multifaceted empire that extends far beyond the recording studio. Let's start with his real estate portfolio, which reads like something out of a mogul's fantasy. Ross owns the Promised Land, a massive 109-room estate in Georgia that was formerly owned by boxing legend Evander Holyfield. The property sits on over 300 acres and features one of the largest residential pools in the United States that Ross proudly claims he can swim across underwater. But that's not all. In November 2025, Ross listed another mansion in Southwest Ranches, Florida for $6.5 million, hoping to make a tidy $3 million profit after purchasing the property from former NBA star Amari Stoudemire for $3.5 million in 2021. The 14,000 square foot home features a 4-bedroom main house, a 2-bedroom guest house, a soundproof movie theater, a custom bar, a resort-style pool with a water slide, and a 9-car garage. Beyond real estate, Ross has diversified his business interests impressively. He owns multiple Wingstop franchise locations, turning his love for lemon pepper wings into a profitable business venture. He's a brand ambassador for Luc Belaire champagne, frequently featuring the rosé in his music and social media. He partnered with cannabis companies, launching the Collins AVE brand with cookies in 2020 and hemp hop smokables with Hempaco in 2021. And then there's his most recent venture, which brings us to one of the more interesting developments of 2025. On October 22nd, 2025, Ross announced a partnership with South Beach Brewing Company, a Miami-based craft beverage maker founded by Lorenzo Borghese. Yes, the former star of ABC's The Bachelor and heir to the Borghese Cosmetics line. This collaboration is particularly intriguing because it represents Ross's entry into the burgeoning cannabis-infused beverage market. The product line includes 2 non-alcoholic THC CBD drinks. The partnership also includes ready-to-drink spirits launching in December 2025. A product launch party was held on November 9th, 2025 at the Surf Comer Hotel in Miami Beach, complete with Ross hosting and emphasizing the South Beach vibe that the drinks are meant to capture. Public reaction to this venture has been largely positive, with fans appreciating the innovative approach to cannabis-infused beverages. However, some skepticism exists around celebrity-backed cannabis products, with Reddit users questioning whether this is genuine entrepreneurship or just another cash grab. Overall, though, the consensus seems to be that this is a smart business move that plays to Ross's strengths and brand identity. But not everything Ross has done in 2025 has been met with universal approval. In early November 2025, Ross posted a video on Instagram that went viral for all the wrong reasons. The video addressed Boston Celtics star Jaylen Brown's ongoing hair issues. For those who don't follow NBA drama, Brown had been experiencing some, shall we say, technical difficulties with his hairline enhancement product. During multiple games, his spray-on hair dye had visibly rubbed off onto opponents' white jerseys during physical contact, first on New York Knicks player OG Anunoby, then on Detroit Pistons player Ronald Holland II, and finally on Washington Wizards player Keshawn George. The video exploded online, amassing millions of views across TikTok, Instagram, and X. The general reaction was amusement, with fans labeling it diabolical and an instant classic. However, some people pointed out the irony of Ross criticizing someone else's grooming choices. Brown, to his credit, handled the situation with good humor. He had already addressed the memes by shaving his head on a Twitch stream, jokingly blaming 10 years of stress, the media, the championships in Boston for his hairline issues. But then came a controversy that was considerably less lighthearted and more politically charged. On November 1st, 2025, Rick Ross performed at the Cruel Kids Halloween party in Washington, D.C. Here's why this was controversial. The event was hosted by C.J. Pearson, a prominent young conservative figure and former co-chair of the Republican National Committee's Youth Advisory Board. Over 600 attendees, predominantly young Republicans and MAGA supporters, packed the St. Eve nightclub. The party featured strong MAGA symbolism: red Cruel Kids, Halloween, hats mimicking Trump's iconic caps, McDonald's food referencing Trump's well-known preferences, and costumes including ICE agents and references to the ongoing government shutdown. The controversy stems from Ross's history of criticizing Donald Trump. In 2017, Ross rapped lyrics expressing a desire to destroy the system under Trump's presidency. In a 2024 interview, he called beliefs in Trump's economic benefits delusional, emphasizing emphasizing a need to start over after the Trump era. So when Ross took the stage at this MAGA-themed event, performing hits like Hustlin' and BMF, many fans felt blindsided. Social media reactions were mixed, but often critical. Some users accused him of hypocrisy, especially given his ongoing feud with Drake, where political alignments had been weaponized. Others saw it simply as a paid gig, arguing that entertainers often perform for diverse audiences without necessarily endorsing their views. Ross had faced similar backlash in January 2025 when he performed at a crypto ball tied to Trump's inauguration. At that time, he defended the appearance on social media, clarifying it was a private event for pay, not a political endorsement, and denying any affiliation with inaugural balls. Despite these controversies, Ross continues to move forward with his various ventures. His upcoming 12th studio album, Set in Stone, was announced in July 2025 as being close to completion. He released the single For the Money, featuring Pharrell Williams in June, accompanied by a lavish music video filmed in Paris. He performed at major international events, including headlining the Durban Music Festival in South Africa in May 2025, drawing massive crowds and demonstrating his global appeal. His social media presence remains strong, and he continues to generate buzz, whether through business announcements, music releases, or viral commentary on sports and culture. The lesson in Ross's journey isn't just about weight loss or avoiding drugs or sleeping more, though those things are certainly important. It's about taking your second chance seriously and using it not just for personal gain, but to help others. Ross's empire-building efforts demonstrate something crucial. You don't have to choose between enjoying life and taking care of yourself. You don't have to become a monk to be healthy. You can still be the boss, still enjoy rosé in the morning, though maybe don't follow his lead on that one, still indulge in your favorite foods, still build businesses and make money, as long as you prioritize the fundamentals of health that keep you alive to enjoy it all. The controversies will continue. The criticisms will keep coming. People will question his choices, his authenticity, his motives, but at the end of the day, Rick Ross is still here, still building, still growing, still inspiring millions of people with his music, his business acumen, and yes, his commitment to health and wellness. And that, more than anything else, is what matters. If you enjoyed this video, click on the ones showing on your screen to enjoy more.